Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as Ivy Winter. Thank you for joining me for another Disney video. Before we get started, if you are new here, you should hit that subscribe button, click that bell notification button so you know when new videos come out. I'm always making videos about planning for Disney World, but this video is actually a little bit different because I am going to Disneyland Paris, and so I started my deep dive into planning, and I wanted to talk about the 10 questions I had about Disneyland Paris that I'm now answering for you. I figured if I had these questions, then someone else is gonna have them too. And through some deep dives and research, I had figured it out, sort of. I am still very much in the process of planning this trip. It is not until September of this year, so we've got plenty of time. But to update, I have booked flights, I have booked hotel. I will be staying at the Sequoia Lodge, which I am very excited for. And I will be flying overnight from New York to Paris, because that's kind of the only options we've got. And I'm really excited to get down there and to experience the parks. But let's jump into these questions that I've had, and hopefully they can answer some of your questions. It's definitely not all inclusive of all the questions you could have, but I think this is a great place to start because these were my 10 initial questions about Disneyland Paris that I really needed answered to just figure out planning. So number one, before I even get there, my first question was, how the heck do I get to Disneyland Paris from the airport? So I will be flying into Charles de Gaulle. That is their international airport. There are international flights to a couple of their other airports, but they aren't as common, and so this will probably be the airport that you fly into. CDG is the airport code name, and I had no idea how I was supposed to get from point A to point B. So I had to do some research, obviously, and this is what I found. So your first option is the obvious and I guess easy but probably most expensive option, and that's to take a taxi. You don't want to have to think about traveling in any other sort of way. You just want to hop into a car and be there. This is your best option. You can always book a cab ahead of time. That's totally possible. It might be easier so that you don't get confused about where to go to find your cab or anything like that. You could probably get a car service that'll do the whole fancy hold your name up and find you when you get off the flight sort of thing. But you could also go to the cab section of the airport and have them take you right to your resort. That's probably gonna cost you, from what I've seen, anywhere from 40 to 50 euros. And so obviously you'll have to do the exchange rate based on what your currency is. But that's quite pricey. It's about a 40-minute drive, and that is one of your options if you just want to spend the money and do that and get right to your hotel. Second way is the magical shuttle bus. Sort of like Magical Express, unfortunately not free. It is about 20 euros a person, but this is a bus similar to where you go out to a certain area, you get picked up at a certain time, and then they bring you to multiple resorts. So your resort will be one stop along the way, very much like Magical Express. This takes about 40-45 minutes. That's for the first resort. It can be longer from the research that I've seen. Some people say it's taken easily over an hour, so that's something to consider when you're thinking about time to the parks, especially if you are in limited amount of time. And then the last way to get there, which is the way I'm gonna go, is called the TGV. So this is a high-speed rail train that takes you from the airport to the stop at Disneyland Paris. I am not gonna try to pronounce it because I'm gonna butcher it. I don't speak any French, you guys, which is gonna be a problem. I will put it up here though, so you can see what it's called. Not gonna try to say that at all. And it gets you there in 10 minutes. This is because it is a high-speed train. The offset of that is that it doesn't run like constantly. Apparently it can be anywhere from like 30 to 45 minutes between each train. So if you miss a train and you add that wait time, it might not make the most sense for you. It might make more sense to hop in a cab or, you know, try to find a different way there because you don't want to lose that time. But I'm trying to time it out with my flight in. You also have to consider going through customs and all of that. So definitely don't think like, oh, my flight lands like 20 minutes before the train, I'll be fine. You never know how long customs all of that is gonna take. I would give yourself at least an hour. That is gonna cost about 25 euros per person. That's for second class. So you can get second class and first class tickets. It seems stupid to me to get a first class ticket for a 10-minute ride, but this train does do longer journeys, like cross countries. So if you were traveling 2 hours, maybe you'd want to do first class. It puts you right into the train station that is literally right outside Disneyland and Disneyland Hotel. And you can walk over to your resort from there as well. The next big question for me was, how many days should I be going for and how long in each park? So if you don't know, Disneyland Paris is 2 parks. It is Disneyland Paris, which is the main park with Sleeping Beauty Castle, their version of it, and all of the things that you would expect from that kind of park, right? And then there's Walt Disney Studios, which I have been told, somebody told me it is like Hollywood Studios back when it was MGM, which is like kind of cool to me because I kind of miss MGM a little. It is not nearly as big. So everyone has psyched up Disneyland Paris for me and told me that Disney Studios is like, meh, you don't need as much time there. You know, I will reserve judgment until I actually go myself because it seems like there's some really cool rides there. So, you know, I won't say anything until I actually go. But from what I understand, that 2 to 3 days is all you really need. You could easily do a full day at Disneyland Paris proper. I've heard that you can do a lot in studios within half a day. So having 2 days sounds even enough to do that and hop back to Disneyland Park. I'm actually doing 3 days, which made the most sense because I'm flying in, landing on a Thursday morning, and I'm not leaving until Saturday afternoon to meet my husband Peter in Paris proper. Very different than Disney World, where you feel like you need 5, 6, sometimes 7 days to really like see everything, and even then sometimes you don't. This sounds to me like 3 days is a very good way of slowing down, taking time. You know, you can run and do the rides that are really important and then maybe redo rides on your 3rd day and really enjoy the atmosphere. So that's what I'm planning on doing. Okay, my 3rd question was, what are the resorts and what are they like and where are they? I had no idea how all of that was laid out, but it kind of reminds me of Disneyland in California in that the resorts are all fairly close. There's not like a ton of them, and you don't have to do any like crazy traveling on a bus or a boat or anything like that. Like Disney World, it's not nearly as large. So the hotels that they have, they aren't broken out in tiers on the site. Kind of compare them to Disney World so you can understand. We've got the Hotel Santa Fe and the Hotel Cheyenne. Santa Fe is a bit more of a Cars themed resort. Cheyenne is a little bit more of a Western resort. These resorts are what I would call like lower tier like values. They're gonna cost about $150 to $180 a night. So more money than you would spend on a value, but for Disneyland Paris, like that's one of the, like those are the cheaper resorts that are theirs if you're not staying off property. Like, not a lot of frills, smaller rooms, all of that. Farther away from the parks, they do have shuttle buses, or you can walk, and the walk I've heard is about 15 to 20 minutes. So those are some of your options there. And then you've got resorts like Sequoia Lodge, where I'm staying, and Newport Bay Club, and they're gonna run you about $200 a night, maybe a little more, and they're a little bit closer to the parks. So I believe the walk from Sequoia Lodge, I've been told, is about 10 minutes. They are bigger rooms, you know, nicer amenities. Maybe I would say they're more like a moderate. Sequoia Lodge actually reminds me a lot on the outside of Wilderness Lodge. Newport Bay Club reminds me more of like the Beach and Yacht Club in terms of style. And like I said, they're a lot closer to the resort. And then you've got, you know, Disneyland Hotel, which is very much to me almost like the Grand Californian or the Disneyland Hotel in California. It literally goes right out and into the park. Like, it is right on Disneyland Park's doorstep. It is about $500 a night. I wish I could stay there. I can't justify spending over $1,000 on my hotel, but I thought about it for a second. There was a moment. I thought about really treating myself. It is a gorgeous looking hotel, and that is really your high-end deluxe hotel there that has the ability to just walk out the door and walk right into the park, which is super, super neat. There are 2 resorts that I actually forgot when recording, and I wanted to make sure that I addressed them to have everything here. The first one is the Davy Crockett Ranch, which is the furthest resort from the parks. It is about a 15-minute drive, even though it is on property. And then there's also the Hotel New York, which is the second closest to the parks after Disneyland Hotel, and is definitely higher in price. I believe the rooms were more expensive than Newport Bay Club or Sequoia Lodge. Of course, you do have off-site options. I did look into them a bit and considered it, but decided, I don't know, next time I'll be back to Disneyland Paris, so I kind of want to treat myself and stay on property. But they're definitely, similarly to Disney World, cheaper resorts that are off-site, not too far, have their shuttle bus options that are usually free, and you're going to get those for like closer to $120 a night. I've even saw some for like $89 or so. So very similar to, you know, Disney World, Disneyland, where you do have options. My number 4 question was, do I need to book restaurant reservations in advance? I feel like I'm so used to the craziness of Disney World where it's like, oh my God, you gotta do it for, you know, XYZ restaurants, otherwise you're gonna be screwed and eating nothing. It's not quite the same. Yes, there are restaurants that are more popular and you probably do want to book out ahead. One that I'm looking at is called Walt's, which is in Disneyland Paris on Main Street, and it is kind of an homage to Walt, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Carthay Circle from what I've seen, so I'm very excited about that. But that one's pretty popular, but from what I understand, it's not too crazy. If you have a huge group, you definitely want to book in advance. And I think if you already know where you want to eat, you might as well do it. They have some ability to book online, but only a few restaurants. Not all restaurants can book online. So otherwise you are going to be calling. And if you're international, that is an international number. They do not have like a US number, because to be totally honest, they don't really advertise to Americans much. They are trying to pull in locals and then people from the UK. So they don't, unlike Disney World where when you go on you can actually get like an American number and a UK number, they don't have like an American number. So keep that in mind if you need to make a phone call and you don't have like international just as part of your plan. That might be a little tricky. Otherwise you can make your restaurant reservations like you can Disney World, which is you can walk up to concierge in your hotel and do it there, or walk up to guest services in the park and do it there. There's 2 restaurants I know I want to eat in, so I will probably book those in advance. But otherwise, I feel like there's less pressure than there is with Disney World. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who has been to Disneyland Paris, but from what I've gathered from my research, it's not as crazy. What is the Fast Pass system like? That was my other question because I had no idea how these things worked. And when I looked into it, it's kind of like Disneyland in California. So you still have paper fast passes that are free, that are, you know, you put your ticket into the machine, you get your fast pass one at a time, that whole jam. And then you also have these paid tiered options, not quite max pass, a little bit different. The fast pass options in terms of rides, there aren't nearly as many as you'd find in like Disney World or Disneyland. I'm gonna read them off per park just in case anyone watching is interested in what you can get a fast pass for. In Disneyland Park, you can get fast pass for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril, which is a roller coaster that I'm really jazzed to ride. Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain, Buzz Lightyear Laser Blast, which I've heard is pretty similar to what we've got in America. Big Thunder Mountain, Peter Pan's Flight, which I'm pretty sure is an exact copy of what we have, so probably gonna pass on that one. And Star Tours. And then in Walt Disney Studios Park, there's only 3 rides with Fast Pass, and that is Rock and Roller Coaster, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, and Ratatouille The Adventure, which is the ride that's actually coming to Epcot really soon. So that's like, what, 9 attractions? It's not really that long of a list, so something to consider. And then they have these tiered Fast Passes you pay for. So it's really interesting because they have like this like plus and unlimited, or like super and unlimited. The first package is like you choose either the family attractions or thrill attractions package. So the family attraction one would be that you get an extra fast pass for Ratatouille, Peter Pan's Flight, and Buzz Lightyear one time, but like you get that extra fast pass. $38 in the low season, $58 in the high season. It's a lot. And then the thrill ride one would be Star Wars, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, and also $38 low season, $58 high season. Then you've got this other package, which is also broken into 2 parts, you get this pass that gives you a fast pass for every single fast pass ride, and you get access one time to them. So it's basically like ensuring that you'll get a fast pass for every single fast pass ride. $77 in the low season, $115 in the high season. And then there is an upgrade from that, which is an unlimited pass, which means you get fast passes for every fast pass ride as many times as you want to ride it. And that is $154 in the low season and $192 in the high season. It is incredibly expensive. I guess if you were a person who's like, I need to ride everything, I have the extra money to spend, I'm gonna do this, like, kudos, go for it. But holy cow, that is expensive. My next question was, am I gonna have trouble as an English speaker? I do not know a lot of French, guys. I studied Spanish in high school, not French. I know the very basics, you know, and I was concerned that I'm not gonna know what's happening in Disneyland Paris. Well, considering that a huge part of their visitor base is from the UK and England, every single cast member knows English. This is a thing that I've learned. Actually, many of them speak many languages, but every single cast member needs to know how to speak English to some extent. So you should not have a problem if you speak English, speaking to people there, speaking to characters and all of that. There are a couple of rides and shows that are in French. There are some that have English options. I know the fireworks kind of go back and forth from what I've seen, between English for some songs, French for other songs, but obviously if you know a Disney song, you know a Disney song. You might not need to know the words in French, but you know what they're singing. But for the most part, there isn't a really big language barrier. The next question is, what about payment and currency? What do I need to know? How do I pay for things? 9 times out of 10, you can use a credit card at Disneyland Paris. You know, obviously make sure you let your bank know you're traveling, because sometimes they see that and think that it's fraud. Having a card that has no travel fees is great, but beyond that, am I ever gonna need cash? In certain circumstances, yes. So when you tip a waiter at a restaurant, it cannot be put on your card. You do have to give them a cash tip, so you should get some euros for that. Same goes for your mousekeeping, which is kind of what we do in America, right? Like, we need some extra cash for that, so keep in mind you should have some euros for that. And then apparently at some of the smaller kiosks, things that sell, like, you know, the light up stuff before the parade, and some of the small ice cream, like, carts and stuff, some of them do not take card. You need cash. So it sounds to me like, you know, card is mostly king, but it's kind of important to have some cash in your back pocket so that you don't run into trouble when you're trying to tip or when you're trying to buy an ice cream bar. Are there extra magic hours? Yes, it's called extra magic time. So instead of EMH, it's EMT. Same sort of concept though. It's almost always in the mornings from what I've seen, and it's always Disneyland Park, not studios, which is interesting. At least from all the calendars that I have seen, it is always appears to be Disneyland Park. I could be wrong, maybe they throw in a studios one here and there, but it makes more sense because it is the bigger park with more attractions. It is usually 2 hours earlier in the morning. You know, similar sort of idea. Whenever the park opens, if it's 10 a.m., you can get in at 8 a.m. as long as you are a resort guest. Okay, we're almost through. My next question was, what the heck is Disney Village? I keep hearing about Disney Village. I don't know what the heck this is. Disney Village is basically their Disney Springs or Downtown Disney. You're gonna walk through it from your resort, unless you're staying at Disneyland Hotel, to get to the parks. And it's very, very similar. It's got entertainment, it's got bars and restaurants. They have something called Panoramagique. Basically, Panoramagique is, God, I sound terrible trying to say that. It's characters in flight. It's the same thing. They have that hot air balloon down there. They also have a movie theater, and they have a bunch of places to eat. The idea of Disney Village apparently is supposed to be like a taste of America. I actually laughed to myself when I realized they have a Five Guys, which is a big burger chain, at least here on the East Coast. I don't know how far it's spread, so let me know if you have a Five Guys in your area. I'd like to know. But I was like, whoa, they have a Five Guys, like that's random. And they have Rainforest Cafe and Planet Hollywood and an Earl of Sandwich, which is actually kind of neat, and a Starbucks and that kind of stuff. And then they have other places to eat. Billy Bob's Country Western Saloon is one of them, which made me laugh. Also, Buffalo Bill Wild West Show with Mickey and Friends, which is a Wild West show but like characters come out. Annette's Diner, which is a very bright 1950s diner. So a lot of things that are hearkening to classic Americana. I'm excited to check it out. I definitely want to spend a little time there and kind of see how they do their downtown, you know, Disney Springs, downtown Disney area. And lastly, are there any apps I should know about? They do have a Disneyland Paris app. I've downloaded it and checked it out. Very similar to, you know, the apps that we have for Disney World and Disneyland. Maybe a little less to like check out and do on there, but it has wait times and all of that good stuff. So I feel like obviously use it, utilize the maps, utilize all that information of like where character meet and greets are and things like that. And then there's another app that people have talked about. I unfortunately can't use it. It's iOS only and I'm a lame Android user. I don't really like Apple, sorry. It is called MagiPark. I'll put a link down below for that, which apparently I've heard is a little bit more accurate in terms of wait times and I guess all around a more generally helpful and better app, like it works better. I will definitely put the link down below because I saw a lot of people talking about this app and really enjoying it. So I'll definitely put that down there. So that's it. Those were my 10 questions. It's a lot of information, but hopefully it helps you if you are planning a trip to Disneyland Paris, because these were the questions I had immediately that I needed to know before I could even like move forward on anything else. If you have any questions about Disneyland Paris or just something you want me to cover about my planning, because I'm super in it right now, you guys, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, then like it. If you like me, you should subscribe. I make videos every single week. We'll be doing more Paris stuff as it starts to come closer. We've got vlogs, Disney World planning, got some guests lined up to do some videos with me, so a lot of good things are coming out. As always, thank you for watching and have a great rest of the day.